to items of information with Dr. Cole.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Mansell. I first want to just thank the Glynn Academy Chorus, Mr. Roper, outstanding job. We didn't get to see it. A lot of our audience probably didn't. Very inspirational and just a very beautiful session, I thought. And so thank our board as well. Part of that was to recognize all the stuff that you guys do and put up with, so we appreciate all that. So that said, our first item is under Focus Area 1, Effective Leadership, which is some possible changes to our Student Code of Conduct by Dr. Peebles.
I've met with Mr. Medalla as part of the Policy Committee compliance, and so some of the things that we've gone through over the course of this year, we always try to keep current and review things. So we're asking for consideration for the board. Not for now. We usually sit on it for at least a month, but in order for us to get things in the Code of Conduct, we're kind of just making sure we get everything paced out. One of the things that you'll see there would be to add to the overall Code of Conduct a change that would require that, or for a clear understanding that if a student is suspended from school, in school or out of school, during the period of time that that takes place, that they are precluded from being able to participate in any of the events that take place. To include as well, if they're out of school suspension, they are not allowed on any school property whatsoever. We've added another line that if they're permanently expelled for whatever the purpose is, and usually that's a very serious incident that we require it, that they are precluded from entering any of our facilities until 1 year after their cohort would graduate. So, you know, we've already experienced that in the recent days with somebody that was permanently expelled, that they try to enter a basketball game. And so, again, the same people that got an issue with are there, so we're trying to preclude a lot of that from taking place. That's one of the changes that we're asking for. As well as, if you roll up a little bit, we're asking for, Chris, can you roll that up? Down, the other way. Keep going. Nope. Right there, stop. All right, so we're also asking under our state code definition of a drugs, we've added a few things. One is to add that equipment or devices, specifically to add that word paraphernalia. That's very common use vernacular for anything dealing with drugs, but also to include in there a little bit different of an understanding that anything dealing with substance or intoxicants, illegal or legal. And we're asking for that specifically because we know about the synthetic marijuana that continues to be prevalent out there, that it's not illegal because they keep changing the nomenclature of that particular item. So, but we do know that students are taking part in those types of drugs in order to get high. So if you go down a little farther, you'll see larceny theft is State Code 11. You know, we are experiencing some counterfeit bills being passed around 20s and 100s in order to make sure that we understand that a student who intentionally possesses or uses or passes it off, that is considered under larceny or theft. And then under our tobacco policy that we're asking for at the recommendation of Mr. Hartley to change a little bit of it that includes to inhale smoke on top of just anything else that's there, but to also include in there any device that we know is not necessarily intended for the purposes of simulating tobacco, that it could in fact be considered as drug paraphernalia. So we go down to the next one, please. And we're just adding that same thing to our overall tobacco policy. So we're asking for your consideration of these. Again, Tuesday night, if it comes up, is that we sit on it for at least one full board cycle. So we would look for a renewal of this look during the May period of time, if you all approve of that. We'll also make sure that we get this out to our principals to see if there's anything else that needs to be tweaked on it. Any questions on any of the recommendations that we have on policies?
This just popped in my head, so I apologize. I don't think it's an issue, but what about CBD oil? Like, I know it's legal, but some kids are taking it, and adults are taking it for alternative therapies and that sort of thing. But I think, and John could probably speak to this, but in some cases it might show up on a drug test. I mean, I don't know. It depends on what strength it is. They said there's a possibility. Do you think we need to address any of that, or
I actually do, and I'm glad you brought it up. But because primarily, although
has a bottle with them in school, it's not really illegal. It's not going to get you high or anything.
Well, there's some of it does provide. It depends on the strength of it and what it is, and I think that's part of the administration's responsibility, that based on a case-by-case circumstances, to determine what exactly are we talking about. And so we've had other issues that come up, especially with these jewels, with they're putting cotton inside of them to minimize some of the effects of the actual ingredients that's put in it. You know, we've had the new inhalers, which is another thing. They look like an actual inhaler, so students can be in class inhaling. So we have a device like that, and the CBD oil itself has an ability as well to simulate a high. So I do think we have to address it as it comes up.
Okay, thank you.
There was one thing I wanted to bring up. Some of the board members might remember we've spent $10,000 on reevaluating all of our policies. But things change, and this is a good witness to, you know, in the last 2 years, this much has changed and things that need to be addressed and redone through what we've done. Even though we did our due diligence by spending a lot and had the Georgia School Board Association look at all of our policies.
As things change, we need to make sure we stay current. There are 2 other policy changes, maybe 3 that we'll bring forward in later dates. One's dealing with a wellness policy that we'll update, and we'll look to possibly establish a policy on retention of data in our emails. And then we have some other ones that I think just need to be looked at, but we'll continue to do so.
And that's a great point by Mr. Medalla. The other thing is the legislature always seems to impact some of our policies as well every year, so we'll monitor that as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Poulos. Our next area, we're very excited to share. As many or most of you know, we went through recently at the end of January Advanced Ed Review. We finally have gotten the official results. They vote on this tomorrow, I think, at their, and we may have a press release for Ms. McDonald hopefully tomorrow about that. So I'll turn over to Dr. Whitehead to give you an overview of what the results are.
So, good evening again. Saw many of you over at Glynn Academy, but this is a nice report to have back for you this afternoon, in that the full report is about 15 pages long, and I will attach that to be in compliance. I'll attach it in the morning after the commission meets. But what I did was to take the liberty of extracting some pieces just to give you some highlights from the report and some comments from the team when they were here. Again, appreciate the fact that every one of our board members participated in that review, and I've participated in reviews myself for other systems, and I can tell you that's not always the case. And so I very much appreciate the time that you all invested in the process as well. It gives us a chance to reflect back on how we're doing as a system, but then to have an objective set of people that aren't from here to come in and take a look at what we're doing and give us feedback. So, yes,
Thank you.
so the first part of the slides that you will see when you go into Assembly that have been posted on PDF, just give you a little bit of background about Advanced Ed. Many people may recall hearing SACS, Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and all of those accrediting agencies, for the most part, have been absorbed under Advanced Ed, which is now a global organization for accreditation, and they accredit private and public school systems across the world. So being accredited by that agency really does provide some quality factor for the system as a whole. If we can move into that, just to the next slide. I thought it was important for you to see some of the feedback we got about the number of people that they spoke to while they were here. And when you hear some of the results, to take into consideration that a lot of this information that they had as takeaways, the majority of that had to do with people out in our buildings. The smallest part of the interviews, really, if you look at the numbers, took place here. While we had cabinet involvement and some other support staff, they spoke to 91 teachers and 98 students over the course of the time they were here. And so a lot of the feedback that they heard was directly from our staff and our students, which I think speaks even more to the feedback that we have received. We'll go to the next slide. The Elliott observation is a tool. They do these observations with an instrument that Advanced Ed, again, uses across the world, and it's set across standards for things that they see within classrooms. And one of the interesting components of the Elliott is that, as compared to TEACS, which is our evaluation system for teachers here, TEACS is going in to see what a teacher's doing for the most part. In the Elliott observation, they're going in to see what students are doing in the classroom. And so the feedback that we get from the Elliott is actually about what students are actually doing, not necessarily what the adults are doing. So it kind of, for lack of a better way of just saying it, takes away the feeling that a teacher needs to put on, some kind of production because people are in the room. It's what they're doing to plan and carry out standards-based instruction every day. This gives you the overall percentages, rankings for each of the major areas of the Elliott. And within all of those, we're either just above or right in line with the 5-year average across the global rates that come back. It'll come back up in a few minutes, but I will draw your attention to the digital learning. That is our lowest rating point. And again, taking into consideration when they go to a school site, the principals nor any administrative staff direct them to a classroom. When they go to a school site, the team members that are there randomly select classrooms to go into. So potentially in a middle school, you could have had a whole, wing that students had their Chromebooks out in every class. They were working on their Chromebooks, doing all kinds of lessons. But those classes may not have been the ones that the team members randomly ended up in. So, you're taking your chances with that to not necessarily have the experience of seeing students engaged in the technology. And so I don't know if you have any other questions about the Elliott, but again, it's kind of an interesting spin on observations from what we traditionally do.
How do they, Dr. White, how do they reconcile the digital learning score with systems that may not be as affluent as ours? Again, it's not really fair to even hit us with a 1.5 with all the money and resources we put into digital learning. But what if you go to another small, community in the southeast and they don't have the resources we have?
Right. And there are.
I just don't know. Not that it affects us overall, but
Right. And
just wondering how they figure that into.
When I attended the state conference in the fall, one of the main things that one of the global presenters shared was that's something to kind of keep on your radar, but if you're going to focus on something, focus on all those other pieces.
Sure.
And so where we have supported learning, even our team that was here, that 3.19 in supported learning, that's strong.
Right,
Like
absolutely.
that's stronger than they see in most districts. So we did extremely well in those areas where we're actually supporting student needs in our classroom. The digital learning, from the feedback we received from our lead, it was, in the comment that's included in the report, is that Glynn County is at this top level, and we think the one thing that might drive you even further would be the inclusion of, student access to technology to collaborate and to do some creative problem solving using technology. But there are literally systems schools that they accredit in the world that have dirt floors
Sure.
that don't have,
Right.
a computer. So the global average for that is 1.5.
Okay, that makes
So
sense.
that's the global average for that area.
Okay, thank you.
So
It doesn't sound like it's measured reasonably to me.
it's
Because that's an
something-
outlier if you look at
Yes.
everything that we do, and why would it would even be on there is beyond me to.
And I'll show
You
you how it definitely is an outlier for us. So that. I'm glad you.
And in
pointed
some
that
ways,
out.
while it's an outlier, it's something that that was something we want to focus on and improve on
Yeah,
anyway.
and I don't want to harp on our lower score because we did
It's
awesome.
good.
I just
I
had
know.
a clarifying question.
It's hard to
I
argue one little.
Yeah.
I know what we're doing. I know what y'all are doing.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
don't know.
The next piece, under the new review system for advanced ed, they are now categorizing your results within 3 phases. There's an initiate phase, which means you're basically just getting kicked off on something, and that's a priority for improvement under the old terminology. Improve phase means you got something going, but you could make it a little bit better. And then impact is where everybody wants to be. That's the upper end of the entire scale for them anymore on their new rubric system. Out of the 31 standards that we were measured on, 29 of them for us were in that impact phase. That's strong. It's strong, and it speaks to the things that are happening in our schools every day, and to the work that our teachers are doing, and the engagement that our students are having, and the results. So, it's one of those things that while they're here, people are nice, and you're thinking, okay, but when they were leaving, they were like, this has just been such a great visit, and we've been able to make connections with team members because they wanted to take ideas back to their systems. So it really was good feedback. If we move to the next one, please. This gives us our overall index of education quality. And so for our IEQ this year, we received a 339.52. The last time Glynn was reviewed, they had 288. So
Great.
Just shows you that continuous improvement, which is what we want to see. And then that 5-year average is a 283, and that's for globally. That would give you the average. So just wanted to be able to share with you what that overall index score was.
So we're higher than the 5-year average,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Sure, we're in the same.
Um,
Okay, awesome.
So the next, just gives you a little bit of information about how those standards then are categorized within different domains. And in the leadership capacity domain, there were 11 standards. On 9 of the 11, we were at meet expectations. On 2 of the 11, exceeds. On the learning capacity, we were 11 out of 12 on meets, and we had one standard that showed up in this one for emerging. And again, it had to do with the promotion of innovation and collaborative problem solving. And our lead, again, directly connected that back to the use of technology. She said, we think the connection of those last two pieces that you'll see for needs improvement are if you bring in the technology for the students to use and collaborate, we think it'll just take you to that next level. Essentially just out of all the things they saw, that was the one thing they said we could work on. But when you look at the different pieces there, the resource capacity domain, we exceeded the standard in 3 out of 8 of those areas and met in 4 out of the 8, with one, again, having to do directly with the technology for what they would consider more of a one-to-one capacity. So if we look at the next, this takes you into some of the quotes pulled directly from the report, and I would just draw your attention to some of the descriptors that they've used. Again, this is directly quoted from the report, to see things that they were able to see things deeply ingrained within the system, as far as having strong and effective leadership, and that they saw a commitment to continuous improvement. The next one takes you into looking at the ability to plan and look ahead, to plan for 21st century opportunities for our students. And again, the word ingrained in the fabric of the system. So seeing those things embedded as they're out and about. If we move on, again, reference to creating a 21st century learning environment is not only the vision, but the direction of the system through the strategic plan. And terminology again stands out in the next quote, that as a progressive school system, Glynn County Schools is purposeful and intentional in the allocation of the system's human, material, and fiscal resources. There wasn't a thing about how decisions were made that they questioned the use of funding in our system. Went on and on, about being able to see the transparency in the expenditures, as well as the fiscal responsibility the system has shown in fund balance and other pieces that they could review in the budget. The next piece again goes to that transparency, just a quote pulled out with that information. And then the last piece, just again, is that quote that's just in direct correlation with planning for the future and movement toward more placement of the students with technology in the classroom. I will tell you, because I did as well think about, I didn't want that to stand out, that they didn't feel like we had lots of resources. And so additionally in the report it says, in classrooms throughout the system, smart boards, Promethean boards, document cameras, and computer carts were observed by the team. The system also has Wi-Fi in every classroom and a 4-year refresh cycle for 2,000 devices each year. So they did make note of what is available out in schools. It was just what they actually saw students doing in those random observations. So I did want to make sure to let you know they did highlight that use of that. And then this next quote, I was actually very happy with this. It may not have as much context for you, but the very first day that I went over to meet our lead evaluator, Donna Ware, when she came into town, and I went to help set up the materials they would need. One of the first things, after we just had formalities of just meeting one another, she asked me that if I were to describe Glynn County Schools, if I would describe it as a school system or a system of schools. And at first I thought, well, that's kind of an odd question, but as we went through more of the work and then to see that feedback, it's more about, are we truly a system? Are we working connected as a system? And I think the additional comments that they made on their exit that I think have been shared out was the idea that as they went to each school site, they saw differences in the schools as far as the people in the building and the demographics in each building that they went to. But they did say that they felt we could remove the signs from any of the school buildings, and the experiences that our children were getting were so equitable in each of those settings that spoke to the fact that we definitely have a comprehensive system in place, and that we are operating as a system rather than as individual schools that are only in name as a system, that they actually saw us working together. And the fact that they picked up on the tradition and the commitment and the pride that even our families and stakeholders shared with them while they were here. And so then the closing comments out of the report, again, just speak to the nice closure that we had when the team was here, and just, again, commending the system for the commitment to the students. So, again, they will officially meet tomorrow morning to give us our official status for continuing accreditation, but didn't want to wait another month to be able to give you this information. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to address it, but again, happy to share that information.
Well, I hope the media gets a hold of it and actually does it some justice, because it shows that the people, everybody who's involved in the school system, from the school board to everybody, is engaged and involved and looking at it. And this is an outside agency that just proved that what we say, don't look at what we say, like I always say in politics, don't look at what somebody says, look at what they've done. And this shows us what we've done, not what we say we've done. And it's just a good compliment to us, and I hope the media really does show the community that their involvement, our involvement, they pick the right officials to sit and to do what we do, and they pick to trust us to pick the right people to do what we do, to trust y'all to pick the right people. And it shows that the whole system is working, and I just hope they do something decent with it, because there's so much negativity out there.
Yes.
I don't mean the school system, I mean just life. Anyway.
Do they have any information that shows? I know we looked at the 5-year average of everything they do. Do they break it out by region or country or state at all? As far as, I mean, we compare ourselves to the Southeast, but globally, I don't know if that's an accurate number. I don't know what the average are, what the low number is, and what the highest number is. I don't know what that range is, but do they provide any information as far as?
It's not like readily available, but I'll be honest, it's a question that I have, and so especially moving into the Georgia's kind of an anomaly, or even around the world. We have like the highest concentration of schools and systems that are accredited by an outside agency, particularly through advanced ed, and so it's a question that I would like to pose that they share out with the state.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all. That's awesome.
It's great news.
All right.
They got to start getting ready for the next one. It's like after the football season's over, you start over again. Now we got to go.
And it'll seem
5
like
more
tomorrow,
years, all right.
I'm sure. I always butcher this name, but I think it's Hutton Mifflin Harcourt. Update, if I'm saying that right. Probably not. To Ms. Lewis and her team to talk about League 180 and System 44. So.
All right, so thank you. And I really do want to iterate and say thank you for supporting our initiatives for instruction. Sometimes they come with a hefty price tag, and so thank you for trusting our teachers and our support system to know that we're going to do what we say we're going to do. We're coming to a point where Read 180 is up for renewal, and I've asked several people to come and can expand on that a little bit more. But I wanted to do more than just create a graph for you and give you numbers. Sometimes the quantitative is as important as the numbers. So with that, I've asked Veronica Littleton, our literacy coordinator, to come and share and bring a team of teachers. So I want you to hear from the teachers to see, what has it done in the classroom, what is it doing for our children, and what does it look like, and is it worth renewing? So without further ado, I'm going to ask Veronica Littleton to begin sharing, and then Veronica, you want to start here?
Sure. Not really.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to speak to a macro viewpoint, and that's the first slide. And overall, this is December data when our students took the reading inventory assessment in December. It shows the dark color, the black color is their end of the year goal. So at some schools, we have students who have already exceeded the goal that was set at the end of the year. So they're already working on perhaps doubling that goal. And at our other schools, we have students who are well on their way to achieving that end of the year goal prior to the end of the year. So we're seeing a lot of growth of our students in terms of Lexile points through the intervention program and the wonderful teaching of the teachers. And so I think that they can best speak to it. So I'm going to introduce a team of 4 ladies that not only teach the Read 180 program, the HMH product, but they also support 2 to 3 other schools and the teachers in a teacher collective support group. So they lead that work and the fantastic results that we're seeing. So first we have Cindy Daniels Kirby.
She left off the Kirby.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I apologize. So now it's recorded. Her husband won't be upset. But she is our lead teacher for St. Simon's Elementary, and she's going to speak a little more in depth about the program and the results that she sees in her work.
So I am the lead teacher for St. Simon's Elementary, Greer, and Goodyear. So as she was speaking to the Lexile, for the county is what I'm going to talk about. So for the county, actually I've been with the program since it was implemented 6 years ago. And so when it was begun and to now, we've seen incredible growth. We've been able to close the gap between our below-level readers to try to bring them onto those on-level achievers. And that's the whole point of the program. So the way we measure that is through the reading inventory. So in December, we gave the reading inventory to all students who are enrolled in Read 180. It was astounding. 83% of our students who are enrolled in Read 180 made growth. Of that 83%, 44% of those have already met their end-of-year goal. So that's astounding. 16% of those students doubled their end-of-the-year goal, and 30% of those students have already moved one level on the college and career readiness band. So that's where we want them to move. We also gave the assessment to our System 44 students. Now our System 44 students are normally or generally, those are our non-readers. So when we gave them the reading inventory, 80% of those students moved their Lexile. Okay? 20% of those students were able to meet their end of the year goal, and we have 22% of those students who were able to move their college and career readiness band. This is outstanding data. It is a credit to the teachers, the hard work they're doing, the program and the strength of it, as well as to the diligence of the students who are participating in it. So we have some other ladies that have a couple things to go with theirs.
Okay, and next we have Edie Hitchin, and she's our lead teacher from Golden Isles.
I also serve Sterling Elementary and Burles Millette. And I'm going to speak more specifically to Golden Isles right now. I just wanted to give you some information about these students. A lot of times we serve them 2 years because they come into us so low, several Lexiles below their grade level. So last year, our 4th grade, out of 36 students that we had 32 that scored, made growth for the CCRPI. And out of that, 23 of them scored the highest growth possible. 7 included were SPED, and 4 were ELL. So the program does work. It's I've been teaching in the county for 26 years, and it's one of the best reading programs that for children that are reading below grade level. It does wonders. And excuse me, I'm not feeling too well. We also, I wanted to let you know too, along with this program, we keep saying below grade level, but we do teach grade level standards in this program as well. They have a lot of stretch text and things that we do so that we can hit on all the curriculum.
Thank you, Edie. Kim Waters is our 3rd elementary lead teacher, and she is based at Glendale Elementary, and Kim's going to talk a little bit about how she supports her students and other schools.
Hi, I'm Kim Waters. I work at Glendale, so I serve Glendale. I also work with Satilla Marsh and Altama. And and those are the 3 schools that I help. I have seen so many gains with this program, with Read 180 and System 44. I absolutely love the program. The kids are loving the program. I could just go on and on. I see what all you have on your agenda tonight, so I'll cut it short. But I could go on and tell you how I see kids that are loving to read again. I see kids that are able to read again, and they're not sitting in the corner acting like they're reading. They're actually reading and comprehending what they're reading. I actually teach 2 segments of 3rd grade and a 5th grade segment, and the partner that I teach with, she's doing 2 4th grade and a 5th grade. But my 3rd graders are challenging my 5th graders to see who can read the most books. And so they're challenging each other and loving it. You know, it used to not happen that way. It couldn't happen that way. But they're enjoying reading again. The love of reading is coming back. The love of coming back to the reading class. Are we going to read 180 today? They're all asking their teachers again, why didn't we go to reading today? Well, you kind of had an assembly this morning. Oh, yeah. Can we come to you this afternoon? I need to finish my book. I'm supposed to take my test. I need to do my software. You know, so that's the love's coming back again. So if the love is back in 3rd grade, it's coming back in 4th grade. If it's there in 4th grade, it's going to be there in 5th grade. And guess what? It's going to be there in middle school.
Which leads us to Sarah Sasser, who is based at Needwood and supports our middle school teachers that teach Read 180.
So I'm Sarah Sasser. I work at Needwood, and I service the middle schools as well as the 2 high schools. This metrics that we looked at, all middle schools are at 0.5 or higher as of December, which means they're at halfway growth or higher. I know at Needwood, we are a 0.7 right now, which is huge for us. That means we're more than halfway on our growth. So we've seen huge gains with the students, and sometimes it's not always the easiest work, but the students get in there and they do what they need in working with us, and we see a lot of growth. So I would feel like it would be a huge disservice if we did not have this program for our students, because like everyone has said, there's huge growth in this program. And it actually gaps that huge gap that we see when they come to middle school with that reading lexile.
So I know one of your questions might be, well, they might be growing really well and we're seeing growth within the program, but does that transfer out into the classroom and onto GMAS? So we did an elementary snapshot and a middle school snapshot, and I have 9 schools in the elementary report. And this year we were able to exit the other way. That would be down. That's okay. And then go down more.
Don't keep going.
Yes. Keep going.
Next.
It really skewed when it converted. Yeah, stop right there. So this year so far across the district, we've actually been able to exit 33 students from the intervention back into regular reading, which is our ultimate goal. And I'm glad the students love going to their intervention, but ultimately we like them not to be in an intervention and to be reading at grade level. So we are seeing movement, and then we saw 53 students move from the System 44, which is more of a reading foundational, phonics-based portion of the program, into the next level at mid-year, which is the Read 180, which is more comprehension-based, because now they have the phonics and the foundational skills under their belt, and the brain can now focus on the comprehension pieces and using the foundation to read. So, but then we also looked at a little bit of historical data. So last year, how many of our students who were in the HMH programs passed milestones with a 2 or higher? And we had 46% of our elementary students who were in the program pass. Now, that doesn't mean that they reach proficiency with a level 3, and so they might need another year, but they passed the test. And according to, the Georgia milestones levels. And what was really impressive, and it doesn't show up on here, but it's on the paper, is that we had 43% of those students fall in the high growth. So they're outscoring their peers and that tells us that we're closing the gap, which is our ultimate goal. In middle school, the results pretty much mirrored elementary school. We had 25 students exit mid-year and go back, and in middle school, it's mostly a connections class, so they were able now to, replace that with an art or a music or, something of their choice and not have to go to an intervention instead of a connections. And 40% of those students that were in HMH program last year passed milestones in middle school, and 42% showed high growth. And I really feel like as we continue on, we're going to see even more success because we have teachers who are experts in their field. We've made some changes to scheduling, and we're supporting teachers on a daily basis with our in-house teachers. So I expect our results to grow. Did you want to speak to the changes and the upgrade, or?
So now the conversation came up because on the renewal process, at one time the license belonged to us, but there is a renewal piece that's coming up now, and that's why the conversation came up to the teachers and principals. And the question was simply, we need to see if it was worth it. Do we want to continue? And we want to see what those pieces look like. So you want to just briefly tell them what those changes are?
Basically, it has to do with what's going on in the software programming world, is that our program, which was Read 180 Next Generation, was written in Flash, which is now become an outdated computer program, and browsers won't recognize that by the end of Stacy. 20. Oh, okay, computer guys, yes. So, computer people. So, they had already developed, the company has already developed a new upgrade in HTML5, which is now the language that the world is using. And so if we want to continue using this intervention, we have to upgrade the software. The licenses still are ours, and we could continue to use it, but it would be a very glitchy, defunct program that would not be supported by the company anymore because they have an HTML5 version. So Ms. Lewis asked the principals, they asked the teachers, what would we do if we didn't have this? We basically would be not having a very intensive intervention. We'd have to find another one because as part of the intervention process, we have to offer a continuum of interventions, and so we would have to replace it with something, but this works, so we want to stick with it.
And part of the price that you'll see at a business meeting will be, which will include, when you keep hearing the word RIs, the reading inventory, well, last year, unfortunately, we were not able to give all the children an RI. In the past, we have this year, because the grant schools were picking it. It was required with the literacy grant. It's required for the grant schools. So if the grant schools used it, it had to be something that the whole system did not adopt. So they bought the license at those schools this year. The quote that we're receiving now will give us the license to do RI with all 3rd, 4th, 5th through 8th grade students, and that gives us a universal screener type thing. And the high schools. Well, special ed, right? Yeah, I think it's just
all
a special
Brunswick
ed.
High does it. Yeah.
But it gives us an opportunity to use it as a screener, so we get a clear baseline of where all the children are. And that's like a golden nugget. So Stacy is here tonight. I don't know if y'all remember her. She's been with us since the very, very beginning. Thank you, Stacy. And I asked her to come because I can't answer all the technical questions as eloquently as she can. So I just wanted to give you a lens view of what it looks like in a teacher's eye. And principals, I did not ask them to come, but they were all like glared at me when I even suggested looking at something different because they've invested. And I need to say this. This program has worked so well because we have top-notch teachers teaching it. Because as you know, you can put anything in front of an awesome teacher and they'll knock it out of the ballpark. But these teachers right here, they were selected because we lost Stacy as a support for our system, but that's okay. We created a support system within our county, and we're growing our teacher leaders. So kudos to the ladies who were risen up and just supported our schools and other teachers. And I just need you to hear from them. So, do you have any questions?
I have one that I bet I don't have to ask you. What is my question? I'm curious if you know.
Are you gonna measure it?
No, that is the other one. There's two, and that's the second one. But she already showed me the measurement. There's one school that sets out significantly that's doing
Oh,
not
yeah.
as well.
Yes.
And what is our intervention that we're doing there? Because that's what you take data to do, to figure out where you're lacking and what you're going to do. Then you come up with a plan to fix it.
That's within the state. Yeah, it's Goodyear.
Goodyear's got a lot of things going against them. It's not just the intervention, it's a demographic situation, it's an issue there. They also have a different scheduling for the intervention right now than the other ones. They're not doing a 90-minute segment like the other schools are doing.
And they have new teachers.
Yeah.
teaching the
They have
program.
two teachers.
They've had 2 rotations.
And
of
then,
people.
yeah, and then we had a teacher go out to have a baby. So some personnel issues, some scheduling issues, and that all of them are being addressed. And there's a plan.
Yes.
Yes. And trying to support those people. We lost 2 teachers out of Read 180 from Goodyear. One went to McIntosh and the other went to a different school within the system. So we lost teachers that were seasoned, and this is not a program that you just pick up and like read. It takes a year or so to really become, or more. Yes, it takes longer to become an expert, which is why we see the results that we see in these ladies' classes, because they've been there for 6 years, so they have a level of expertise that a new teacher just.
So we're really hoping that the teachers at Goodyear will stay this year, so we'll have some continuity with that, because they changed twice.
I guess my biggest thing is I hear what you're saying, and I'm not blaming y'all, okay? So don't take it that way. I look at her, and she knows I do. I want to see, when there's something going on, I want to see how we're going to fix it. And I don't take, there's not a reasonable reason ever. There's a way around it, and there's a way to work through it. And there's some other schools that are similar to that are doing well. So there is a way. And if it is teacher-related, that's fine. Is there something the board needs to do to get the right teachers in here to hold a contract or whatever, out of the box thing we may need to do to hold the appropriate teachers to teach in such a challenged school? That's what I'm saying. And that I say the same thing every time. It's something that, if we have to do something differently, let's do it. Whatever that case may be. But we need to address our and it's not much, it's just one school that looks,
And that one
it's way
school
out, but the rest are
had-
doing great.
Right, and I
So,
agree.
I don't wanna
had that
overly
one
focus
school
on the
with
look, but-
21 new staff members the first year, and then the second year we had like over 12 or 15 new staff. I mean, it's a hard piece to hold still because it keeps moving on us, but we have support in that school like we have never had, and we don't have it in the other schools. So we are addressing our problems. Now, we're just praying and we're encouraging that principal leave those teachers in that capacity because they're finally getting trained. So yes, we hear you loud and clear. And I know what the second question is too.
Then you can bypass that one, that's fine. How
But
we
I do wanna
measure it, and
say
I've
this,
seen, and
when
that's
you
it.
see the price tag on it, and I'm roughly guesstimating Hope Mifflin, because when we came to
Don't
the
tell
table,
us yet.
we saw the price
I
tag.
know what about it is, don't say it.
I saw the price tag and I went,
Just tell them the
we can't
original
do that.
one.
And Pam was there, and Pam said, no, not being partners is not an option. So anyway, I just want to say thank you for the accommodations that y'all did. I mean, it's like at least a 35% discount that they gave us for the first quote they gave us. So. More than that.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say?
Not really. I mean, just that I just came back as your account executive. You guys probably remember me.
Sure.
I was the project manager here for 3 years. Here every day, Monday through Thursday. You're like family to me, so I'm just excited that I can be here again supporting you guys in a little bit different role, but still here making sure that your needs are met, however that those needs appear. So, and I appreciate the opportunity to come. And I guess the only other thing I want to say is it's not just the upgrading, but it's also, we have added some things within the program based on the new brain research and also centered around growth mindset. So we have an exclusive partnership with Carol Dweck, and so the new program has all the growth mindset and also the newest brain research on exactly how the brain learns to read, all integrated
within it, so.
I've got a question. Have we seen a trend upward, downward of the number of students
Yes.
reading? So it's starting to go down.
Yes, sir.
That's the
And
ultimate
why do you
goal.
think that, Dr.
Right.
Because our
it's-
tier one reading,
Right.
Yes. As our tier one reading, as our teachers become more skilled practitioners and growing in their craft, we're seeing our students' reading levels and their abilities increase. So as that's happening in the regular classroom setting, the number of students needing intervention is reducing. So we're moving to that goal of meeting the 80% or better of our students' needs in a tier one setting. So yeah, we are seeing that swap now, which is hard.
And on a different level, that gives kudos to the first and second grade kindergarten teachers for preparing them for third grade too. So
Yes, exactly.
I have a question looking at the first chart, the mean change in Lexile, and
Yes.
I'm interpreting this correctly. 100 is a year's growth in a year's time, maybe?
At elementary,
Okay.
in general.
Well, and that was really part of my question,
Yeah.
because when you're looking across and you're seeing about 100, about 190, and then it drops to 60, and I'm looking at from there on.
Middle
it's
school is 50.
Middle school, high school with the one
Yes.
elementary.
So if I can just
Yeah.
to give you a little extra information about
Yeah.
that. So Metametrics, which you may be familiar with, is a company that actually created the Lexile Analyzer, which Lexile's text and a student so that you're able to match a student with a text. They each student is given an individual growth goal based on their grade and how far behind they are. So if I was a third grade student reading significantly below grade level, the expectation would be for me to grow significantly more in that year than a student that's a third grader that's reading on grade level.
Okay.
So what you're seeing is all of those individual growth goals aggregated together and averaged out at a school site.
Gotcha.
So, you could say 100 is, basically what you would expect a student that's receiving intensive intervention to grow in a middle school. But if I'm a BR, then my growth goal for that year is going to be significantly higher than 100 Lexiles. So that's just everything aggregated together. Does that kind of?
I think so, and,
Yeah.
and just, I would intuitively think that as the reader progresses up in the Lexiles, it's almost more difficult to make the gain, and that's
Right.
why you're seeing middle and high not as much too.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Show us the number, the ballpark.
Yes.
give them a ballpark review.
He's all been waiting on this. We've been waiting on the number.
So the bottom line is $573,044.50. That's to set up all the classrooms with the new libraries and all the materials, the student consumable student books. That's everything. That's all the training, all the coaching, virtually and in person, the consumable books, and the upgrade of the software and the new version. And that includes the RI district-wide licenses.
How many students will that affect?
All of them.
All
The-
students in third
All the students that's in there.
Could you do the high school and the RI?
So in Glynn Academy, I think we only included the ESE students, but
Okay.
if there were, but all the rest are included.
So that would be all students in the non-grant schools, 5 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and then the special education students at Glynn Academy.
What I was looking for is and it can come later, that's fine, is a number of how many students that we will spend $577,000 on to improve their reading scores. The number, not the
You
group,
know how
but the
many
number.
students are in the classroom?
Yes.
787 students are currently in Read 180 right now, and
And won't that grow if the license are across the board?
Not necessarily.
No? Okay, that's good.
and then 294 students are currently in the System 44.
11,000.
How many were in the reading, 700 or what?
In December, 787 students, and that could have been even more because they were only the students who had 2 measures were included in the sample.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
when we purchased the Read 180 before, that was supposed to take us, what, 5 years, 6 years? And now, when we
Really?
purchase this program, is that gonna take us another 5 or 6 years, and then we have to purchase a new program?
That's what I asked her, she
Yeah.
said.
No,
I'm just
so,
asking a
and
question.
that's a good question. And the initial cost is obviously, after this year, your ultimate cost, after this year is really just the consumable books, and then the cost of us hosting the licenses. So really, a lot of the cost this year is to upgrade to the new version, and then to set up those classrooms. So, you're talking about new teaching materials, new student books, and then these licenses will take you through 2024 with no there won't be, other than the hosting and the consumables, there will be no additional cost after this initial cost. Yeah.
And Brian said you switched to the static updates to like the real-time
That's right.
updates.
Right, so if a new version came out between now and 2024, you would just automatically get that version with no cost, right? So any kind of new additions now would be just added to. It was really just the,
That's a good question.
yeah.
So
We
what's the
asked that as
difference
well.
in the maintenance cost today versus what we'll be paying next year? This year's budget that we're in, what was the Read 180 System 44 cost? Not personnel, but licensing and
The host.
resources, hosting, et cetera. I'm trying to get to what the increase is.
So
Oh,
your
I get it.
district-wide hosting plan, which
Right.
means that we host all your RI licenses, Read 180 and System 44, and that cost is $50,000 district-wide. And then the consumable student books, I would have to get that quote to you, because I don't know exactly what that runs the district. It would depend on what you have left. They take an inventory of the class. One of the things, your consumable book takes you more than 1 year, because they have divided a book into several grades. So, fourth grade may do the workshops 1 through 3, and fifth grade 5 through 6. So a consumable book is not every year; it's every other year, because of the way that they have it planned with the students.
So after next year, after the $575,000 investment, approximately what will our yearly maintenance costs go to? About the 50 or 60 or 70 or whatever it is.
Right, so the $50,000 for the hosting,
Plus
and
the
then
consumables that we need.
the consumable books, whatever you inventory that you need more of, and then whatever coaching or training you decide as a district after that initial coaching and training. The first year, all of that's built in, and then that would be a district decision on what type of support do we need the next year, or would the lead teachers be taking over that support again like they have been, which is, they're getting a lot, I'm getting head nods with that. So it sounds like, you would,
We want to keep
you would
our
have
lead
the,
teachers.
you would have the coaching that first year, which is already concluded in the cost, and then you would take it back over, as a district, after we build that capacity up again. So it would really just be the consumable books, inventory, and 50,000.
Is this program not available at Oglethorpe, or it's not used to be?
It's not in their, because they don't have a need. They're one of our schools that each grade level has, their students are successful at well over 80%. So they're able to, with the other interventions that we have, address the very small numbers of students that are not meeting grade level expectations.
Is that assessed periodically?
3
to see
times
if
a
there's
year with a
anything?
universal screener.
And that RI that she spoke of, it includes Oglethorpe to take the RI test.
So
we
they
keep a
would-
pulse
yeah.
check, yes. Because we want to make sure we're not missing anything, and if we start seeing a dip or seeing a need, then we can address it.
Okay,
But they will get the RI license as well.
okay.
Well, in my opinion, too, you have to sort of be careful about the scores that you compare, because just based on personal experience, I mean, when they take that first test in August or September, whenever you give it, I mean, that summer slide, I mean,
Absolutely.
hundreds of points difference. I mean, just speaking of personal experience, but by the time December rolls
Right.
around, they're back there.
We try and give the students a few weeks to come in and rub the summer rust off
Right.
before we
Yeah.
throw them on
We
the
don't-
computer.
we don't touch them right away.
Yeah. Just so we get a more accurate measure, because we don't want to teach in under and We just want to quickly get them back up. It takes a couple weeks to rub off the rust.
What's
And
the
then-
average number of years that a student is in the program? Do most of them come out in a year, or is it?
Right now, we're seeing
We haven't
3.
got-
It really depends on the student.
Sure,
We've had
sure.
some that start in third grade
Right.
in System 44, move right to Read 180 in fourth grade,
Mhm.
and then are exited by fifth. We've had some that enter in fifth and Read 180 and are out by December. It really depends on the individual student.
And
but
we're
that's
starting
what
in
makes
third
it
now?
So great that you can individualize it.
Okay.
In third grade, it's System 44. And then after that, it would be either Read 180 or a combination of 44 and Read 180.
And just to give you a little background and information of the growth that you've made as a district, and when we first started, and I started as a project manager, we had System 44, 3rd through 12th grade. So we had students that had foundational gaps, phonics, decoding, sight word gaps, all the way up to a senior in high school. The only students that are now involved in System 44 in the middle school and high school are students that are SPED students or new students to the district. So you really have, throughout the years of having this program, have, decreased your need for System 44 in any grade other than, any section other than elementary. So really made a difference in that.
And I don't want you to think that while we're telling you how great it is, we also know that those children need Tier 1 instruction to make sure that they're getting what on grade level. So we're not living in some twilight zone thinking that this program will fix our kids. We know better.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's all about human resources, in my opinion. I mean, the programs are great, but I mean, your team, even the people in the room right now are great, amazing, and they do a great job. We just have to look at, we have to look at all the aspects of doing something like that. And, speaking again from personal experience, having children in EIP and other things that you see their Lexile jump through Moby Max and stuff like that just as much, but I don't have that individualized instruction, from the lead teachers and stuff in that program. But you just have to gauge, it's not whether it's worth it or not. Obviously, we're getting gains from it. And if you've ever done a third grade math problem, you can't do it without being able to read. I mean, it's just, you can't do it. And I can't do it, and I can read a little bit. So I can imagine it's frustrating for them if you have that much trouble that you can't do math or science or anything else if you can't read. But yeah.
Thank you, ladies. And so to close it up, I'm going to give them a cliffhanger, Dr. Cole.
Okay.
So when we're talking about K1 and 2 reading, Dr. Yergin, progressing up, we've got something special coming up, and you'll hear about it maybe next month. And it's all about pushing literacy. So I just wanted to give you that little tidbit so you can get really excited next month. And it's going to be some good stuff.
We're going to get little cards or pictures or something.
Huh?
I'm not singing. Whatever.
No, I'm not going to sing.
Thank y'all for being here.
When do you need?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Where's the payment?
Stacy.
It's going to be in this going to be in
Oh, I'm sorry.
this upcoming budget, right? This for next year.
Well, I want Andrea to really speak to
Sure.
that because
Okay.
some of that could maybe this year's budget. So I don't want to say yes or no.
But it's not the vote on for Tuesday.
No.
I didn't think so.
No, not now.
I'm gonna leave these in your office,
Thank
just so you
you.
have extra copies.
Okay.
Thank you.
My initial reaction was, it sounds like my iPhone, to give you a couple years and then it craps out on purpose, they code it so it dies in 3 years. Good grief.
Thank you, Dr. Cole.
All
Thank
right.
you. Our next area is under supportive learning environment, and this is where we give an update on our facilities, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Boudreau.
There goes your gifted resources. There goes y'all's gifted resources. There goes gifted resources.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, we'll kick it off with Glynn Academy update, starting with the historic VA building. Nothing new to report there, it's still on our list for potential future projects to do. Sydney Lanier renovations, contractors making pretty good progress. They started some interior finishes, ceiling grid, paint, tile work. The windows are moving a little slowly, but that hasn't slowed us down yet. The contractor is still committed to July turnover date to us. The other part of Sydney Lanier tonight is the furniture bid. I say bid because we only received one. In the amount of $97,000.
Almost
958.82.
958.82.
And this is the furniture supplier that has done all of our schools since probably Brunswick High. So same furniture. The prices are in line with what they've been doing for years for us. So that'll come on Tuesday for recommendation to award this to Georgia School Specialty.
This Tuesday.
Any questions on that?
Following Tuesday.
And we did a formal bid. I mean, it was on the procurement registry. It went out to everybody, and this is the first time we're going to have one come back. So that was interesting.
So that would be on our Tuesday following spring break for you to take action.
Okay. Moving on from that, the fencing, we'll talk a little bit more about fencing when we do the MOU with the city. The science building is next. As you know, we went out, we received proposals on February 28th for the total modernization of the science building. As you can see the results here, R.H. Tyson Construction was our highest rated proposer. You'll also notice that they were not the least cost. The lowest cost proposer had some red flags in their proposal that kept them from scoring as highly as they probably should have. The other issue here is that all of these prices were over budget. So we worked with the highest rated proposer to value engineer the project, and right now we've taken $800,000 out of their base proposal, which we feel really comfortable with. Chris, if you'll go down, there you go. You'll see that we're showing can you blow it up one more time so I can see it at least? There you go. As you'll see, we started with our original budget for construction, and proposed budget is what we're going to recommend that we award not to exceed to R.H. Tyson, and go down a little bit more, Chris. Right there's good. You'll see how we got to that $800,000 within our value engineering and some things we moved around, and the proposed budget reflects a difference of about $254,000, which we feel like we probably still get a little bit more out of it, but we're going to ask to award it at these numbers, and hopefully we're going to be able to get a little bit more out of it, get a little closer to our original budget. The overage I propose to take out of our catch-all category, which is technology renovations, where we've been putting all of our excess, over collections every month, which we did get some good news today. We're 99,000 over our projection for this month. We just got those today. Today, the projections, or the collections.
Yeah, so it's about a little over 7 million overall.
Yeah, so
This month's 99,000.
99.
I know the answer to this because we all know y'all so well, but I want to ask it anyway. So with the value engineering you've done, we're not really, we're not skimping on anything, are we? I mean, are we gonna, $800,000 is a lot of money to cut. So what do we lose anything major? I mean, do we go from tile to, I don't want it to be cheap, but we don't want to, if we can save money, that's great, but I don't want it to be.
The heat and air for this building was a real challenge.
Right.
And the initial design was very expensive. I mean, that showed up on everybody's spreadsheet.
Okay.
So we're working that pretty hard, and that's where we've gotten a lot of
We're going to
savings.
revise the heating and air conditioning system, and we got quite a surprise on the bid day. The floor-to-floor heights is low, very limited duct space. We selected a system that did not require ducts above the ceiling, and the manufacturer just came in with a price that we think is totally unreasonable. We're going to
And you can see we carried a fairly high contingency in the original budget, so we applied most of that to the construction. So we're not gonna be hurting. So we're really close right now. We can get a little bit closer. I don't know if we'll hit the original budget, but I think we'll be within $150,000.
Well, that original budget was from what year? I mean, how long has this been on the schedule? I mean,
It's been on there
for a long time.
for a while. And as you know, R.H. Tyson, they're doing the football field house.
Right.
The stadium field house, they're doing city engineer for us. They've done the football field house at Brunswick High. They've done a lot of work for us, and they're a good contractor. We feel good with this recommendation. So that'll be on for next Tuesday also. All right, no further questions on that. We're down to the MOU between the City of Brunswick and the Board of Ed for the Mansfield Street closing, gate at Mansfield Street. That's it, Chris. Everybody has this. This is just the language. We'll be asking you to approve this on April 9th as well.
As y'all know, the city took action on this, I think, at their last city council meeting. I appreciate the paper, I think, reported on it as well. So now it's our turn, I guess, to ratify, with the board's decision on that. But, as you saw today, we had a situation where several police officers, went through the middle of our campus on their way to a pretty serious call. But even at that said, it was extremely bad timing and very dangerous for our students. For the Brunswick police to go through there, I don't know how many police cars I saw going right through the middle of campus today. And so this is exactly why we need this gate, and for that very reason. So that's in essence what this MOU will do for us, or we can put up gates that can be opened after school or and closed during any events that we need to. So we appreciate the city working with us on that, and we look forward to getting started on that.
Any questions on the MOU at all?
I just had a question about the road, where they're gonna extend Carpenter Street. Now,
That's
I know
it's the
there's-
next one.
Oh,
The right square one.
That's the right square one.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's
It's
a
a
two-parter.
it's a twofer.
It's a two for one. So this is just the gate part, and then we'll do the right square next.
Okay, Chris, let's go down to the right square MOU. And, basically have a language, but as we'll scroll down, there'll be a couple of surveys that show actually what we're giving back to the city. Here's one right here. This is Carpenter Street. That really, back when we traded with the city for the new Glynn Middle site, this was part of a swap back to the city. And honestly, this should have been included back when we did that, because it just gives them their extension of their right-of-way. If you come down Carpenter Street, it just extends it to what it would have normally been as a city street, which pretty much takes in that driveway with some of the parking, but the parking's going to remain. The second part of this, there's another survey. I don't know why they did two surveys, but can you drop down, Chris, on the, go back and drop down? Here's the other part that shows, this really isn't a street, but it's part of Wright Square. And what do you have this on the aerial also, Chris?
Pull that one up. That was it.
Yeah, what we'll gain out of this is where the road jogs, we're gonna turn that into diagonal parking for the field house. So the idea is for the city to straighten that road, and the paving that's left, we will pick up probably 12 or 13 parking places right there.
Do we know if that road is gonna be one direction or both directions?
I think it's gonna be one way.
Okay.
That was the intent.
It's gonna be
I
a
couldn't tell from
counterclockwise
their
flow
language.
around the square.
Right.
So that'll.
So use your mouse pointer just real quick. Tell me exactly what I didn't see the acreage. I don't know what it said. It doesn't matter. It was 0.21 or something. It wasn't.
It basically just straightens that, where that grass is, that where he's got.
Right-
the
right where
cursor.
Like where the white car is in the tree.
It's gonna be diagonal parking space.
If you could go back to the last
They've got the
survey.
acreage on both of them. That is
217 acres.
And then Chris, go back up to the, and that is .232. So a little less than half an acre, about 20,000
And
square
what
feet.
that really does, Mr. Halsey, for whatever the reason, when property, I guess, was transferred to the school district, and this is in the 50s or whenever Glynn Middle School was constructed, in that process of transferring and transferring back, the original boundaries of Wright Square was lost. And so that's what happened when the intent was that you transfer back to the Wright Square portion. As it turns out, the survey didn't, and the legal description did not do that. So that's all you're doing is restoring Wright Square.
Have they said what their plans are with Wright Square?
Well, they're gonna try to make that all a one-way counterclockwise flow, close George Street, and have traffic go all the way around the square.
Make it similar to Hanover Park, which is what's in their mind.
They've got the Signature Square Committee or
They wanna
whatever
go
they
back.
call it. They will go through the process of upgrading that particular area once it's there.
We'll pick up some parking out of this deal, which will be nice.
It's hard to tell from the Google in this, but we feel like it's an adequate buffer from the field house and the tennis courts and everything where this traffic's gonna flow.
I don't think we're going to see a lot of traffic coming that direction anyway.
To explain it better, the two pictures are turned different angles. So the Google one's like kind of north and
Right.
south, and that's more east and west. So they're essentially going to give us parking in front of where the field house currently is. So it's going to take the road further away from the field house on the square side.
Can we go back to the aerial
Yeah,
shot, please?
better shot.
That's the best
There
way.
you go.
Right,
So where the white cars parked in the grass,
Yeah,
that's where
it'll
the
take-
road will be.
So it's actually further.
Yeah.
but that's plenty of room. I mean, we're talking
Yes.
about that was just kind of a driveway before, but now it's gonna be a road.
And most of the student traffic is what comes up George Street to get to the little bit of parking that we have on, not George Street, but on
Egmont.
So
Okay.
Egmont would be going kind of one way when it gets to the circle. They would come up by the tennis courts, turn, and then they would have to turn right to come back up towards the Board of Education. So there's not a lot of traffic except during the school day, and it's mostly student traffic anyway, coming from that direction. So it actually benefits us all the way around, to be honest.
Any questions at all about the MOUs, the two MOUs?
And I appreciate Dr. Poulos and Mr. Blackstone going to the city council and presenting our thoughts about closing it, and so thank you.
That'll be on for April 9th. Okay. That wraps up Glynn Academy. Next item is athletic field Miller Lanier. As I reported last time, Mr. Pitt and I will sit down in May and try to figure out what we need to do. It's mainly going to be a fencing job, and we just need to sit down and see what's going to benefit our needs the best there. Drop-off canopies, Greer, Satilla Marsh, and Eagwood, they remain on our future project list, waiting for funding, as well as Satilla Marsh parking lot. Down to New Borough's Millette, the asbestos abatement has started in the old building, and we should see some demo probably starting in a couple weeks, if not sooner. So that's on track, and the contractor feels good about a summer completion for everything that's left. We do want to announce that there's going to be an open house April 11th at 4 o'clock at George.
And I know there was some talk about having one, I think today probably,
This morning.
but you know, that of course became the one that we're going to focus on and be an open house and a drop-in dedication. So we're looking forward to that.
Stadium renovation, everything's on track. They started installing windows. It's starting to look like a pretty nice building. So they're still on track there. The site contractor has started doing some more work, so hopefully he'll start wrapping things up on, you know, the drainage work and all that. Altana Elementary.
Al, is that, are we gonna light, I think you've said this a million times, are we gonna light the new parking where the pine trees were? Is that gonna be a lighted parking lot, or is it just gonna be a lot?
You know, we haven't discussed it. It won't be difficult to light. I mean, like 2
say it's awfully dark, and I mean, the trees will be there, it may help a little bit, but.
And we've done a pretty good job of lighting the parking area.
Right.
So that shouldn't be an issue. We can take care of that. We can take care of that just fine. Altama, I expect the clearing sub to get started any day. The boundaries or limits of the clearing have been set by the surveyor. And the next thing we could probably see is silk fence and things like that going up, and they should start really soon on clearing that site. The next phase would be the award of the site work. It looks like we're going to receive proposals pretty soon. We're 30th.
Yeah, at the end of the month.
Yeah.
That's correct. And I think we're going to postpone that maybe until May the 5th or something, but we will have you a report on May 9th for the site preparation phase. The site preparation phase will be establishing building pads, rough grading the site, running some storm drainage, and taking erosion control to the level it needs to be for the building construction to occur. So that will be an earthwork and limited utilities contract, so that when it's complete and the building contract is awarded, the general contractor for the building can go to work on completed building pads so that people start digging footings immediately. So that's the second phase.
And the county has asked us to initiate a traffic survey, which we have a proposal for, and we'll probably get that going so that it can help us with traffic and whatever. That's a county road, so we met with a lot of the county staff today, and they're willing to help us and try to stay ahead, and they want to know what our future plans are so they can plan for building sidewalks, and they don't want to get caught, after the fact, oh gosh, where are we going to find money to build sidewalks to these schools? So that was a good meeting today, and it was perfect timing, and I think it went really well.
Absolutely.
What about joint water sewer? I know that, Brunswick was unique. I mean, I thought it was kind of ridiculous, but it was unique because it's been there a long time. Who knows what's underground? I assume this will be a little bit more smooth with joint water sewer. Are they already involved in the process, or do we know?
On that.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, really.
Better start talking to them yesterday, and
Yes,
we have
sir.
already.
We've had 2 meetings
Okay, perfect.
with
Good.
joint
Yeah,
water
gotcha.
sewer,
So they can't say they didn't know.
constant liaison with
Sure they
them,
can.
so that's really all that we can do.
Gotcha.
Obviously, we won't have the lack of information about existing leaks of utilities and things.
Right.
There were no records
Full right. Okay.
It's simpler in that regard, but there's some other issues.
Okay.
There are just always issues.
Yeah.
You just have to change gears and deal with it. All right.
And we appreciate that battle.
Next item is Community Center for the Arts. And I think I've.
Yeah, click on that.
There it is. There it is. This is just a schedule I presented this to the college folks that are kind of running the project from their end. And what this is a funding schedule at the top and a realistic schedule at the bottom, just showing where the top 4 lines basically outline our cash flow when funds are available. The bottom lines, if you can read it, it's the first milestone we're coming up on is the college requesting funding from the regions for operations and maintenance. They should go out for that September of this year. And it's a 6-month process. If everything goes well, we will have programming starting first of the year with design shortly after that and construction following in steps. So the realistic schedule stretches out a whole lot longer than the funding schedule. So this is what we're working with, and hopefully if everything stays on schedule, they will make their request to the regions in September. And I've requested 6 months for that process to be completed. And that's probably the key to the whole project moving forward.
So if we reduce the scope enough to fit within the budget, the allotted amount of money, how far are we gonna have to scale back as far as capacities or, meeting rooms or whatever we wanted to do? Does that make sense? I mean, are we going from 800 to 400 seats, or, I mean, just throwing numbers out?
It's
but
really
what-
the college that decides. I think they're determining what is within the 20, because they really want to make it a $20 million project for
Right.
everything. I think they're talking about 1,200 seats from what I've heard. I know Mr. Myers is doing a presentation of what they're thinking it looks like. Mr. Tootin's involved maybe with the design of that.
And the 20 million is turnkey, that's not
Right,
construction.
right.
So,
What the broad policy, and this doesn't include all the details, is to limit the capital cost to $20 million, and that would be for design, construction, site work. And
Right.
whatever.
Yes, sir.
And to scale the project back so that that budget is met. So that's they specifically set that goal. The last that I heard, 1,000 or 1,200 seats, but not in a proscenium auditorium type building, but in more of a multi-purpose type building. They would have excellent acoustics, but it wouldn't have a stage curtain and be a traditional proscenium auditorium building. So that's the direction that they're talking now, though we do not have a specific building program, and that is a space-by-space list of the programs and areas, as they did have for the 1,400 seat auditorium. So programming still has to be done, but the target is 1,000 or 1,200 seats in more of a multi-purpose type building.
How many people are at graduation?
You mean actual spectators? Or
The whole
are you talking
thing.
about graduating?
How many seats do we need for graduation? Because this is where this began.
5,000.
Yeah, at least.
I mean, that's what
Now,
this whole.
obviously at Brunswick High School, you have, I think, what, a capacity of 2,000, is that right? And then you have your graduates that are down there in faculty.
Yeah, they put almost 3,000 in the gym, then they have 550 in the auditorium, and they see people in the cafeteria on the big screen.
But to be able to see be present, actually sitting there, you're what, about 3,000 plus that are in the gymnasium for them. You go to Glynn Academy's graduation, and then you're looking at, probably 4,000 that are in there because of the.
I thought in the beginning we were looking at a 5,000 seat.
No, it hasn't. That might have been mentioned when somebody might have said graduation, but quickly we realized that was not possible.
You can't accommodate it.
Budget. And a 5,000 seat auditorium gets to be something like the Fox Theater. So it's a huge thing. Very few auditorium of that size are built anywhere.
The Jekyll Convention Center can hold that many in that type of a seating arrangement, but that's the only place around here that can do that.
And that costs us like
So
$10,000.
Yeah.
So.
When the study was published, and I've forgotten what the acronym is for the original study that was published 10 years ago now. The call report. It was 1,200 seats or 1,400 seats in that range. The talk about having sufficient capacity for graduation has not been discussed for a long time. Though initially there was some.
It's always been in my head, whether it belongs there or not. How much would it cost to cover the stadium? More than $20 million? I mean, I don't know.
I would think so.
Mercedes-Benz.
I mean, it was the initial concept.
That'd be nice.
We can do kindergarten graduation.
Kindergarten graduation. Pre-K.
Pre-K graduation. That's what we're gonna do over at the.
I know it's a different concept. How many seats are in the Brunswick Auditorium, the new one?
550.
Okay.
800.
Gotcha.
If there are budget overruns, what's our obligation? Only 20 million?
20 million, not to exceed.
Okay.
And that's the reason the college scaled back. Initially there was talk of going in the community and raising funds, but for whatever reason, they've determined that policy is not a policy they don't follow. So the 20 million is the capital budget. So they set that criteria as compared to earlier discussions about raising additional funds. And I think perhaps the regents advise that policy, but I'm not sure. I'm not in those days.
What is the
Golf
college?
course with the Regents agreeing
Yeah.
to
Do it.
the MOU.
Give the property.
No additional financial obligation by the Board of Education unless you voted to.
Can I make a comment? They can still turn it down. Al, correct? They can still turn it down. They have 180 days to turn it down from the time we have the 20 million put up. That's in the MOU. And with politics, we don't know what the Board of Regents, they may just say, it was a great idea, we'll take a pass, and then go to Plan B, which is then utilize that money for another pay-as-you-go project. But it's still not a done deal.
It's okay if it is. I just want to make sure we're not, I'm not picking on the city or anything, but we don't need, 3 conference centers and a block. You know what I mean? If this can't be something that we envision it to be, if it doesn't make sense to build it, then we need to, we need to reconsider that. And, for those of us who live through the Career Academy expansion and building, I mean, we all know, MOU or not, when it comes right down to it, people start ponying up more millions of dollars, which is what, the city and we in the county did. I'm just saying that it can happen. I know that we say it's capped at 20 million, but you get 3/4 of the way through construction and all of a sudden it's going to stop. We're going to allow it to stop. Are they going to allow it to stop? How much money they have in the bank for maintenance and for operations for it. So, I mean, we're getting down to the point where we've got to start talking about, is it going to actually work? Not against the project, but is it going to be feasible if we can't do a 1,200 seat facility for $20 million? I don't know. I know, we're all thinking it, but I'm not saying it.
We came to a clear conclusion that a 1,400 seat proscenium auditorium with lifts for scenery and that very sophisticated building type clearly does not fit a $20 million budget. So that was the reason for the move toward a multi-purpose type facility. It would still be good for musical performances, and many musical performances are not held in a proscenium type stages. And as a matter of fact, music is better usually if you're in a proscenium stage trying to project music than you have the sound devices that project the music out. So multi-purpose room won't necessarily work against music. It would work against a Broadway play or something like that. The feasibility study suggested to the group that the notion of bringing Broadway plays to this marketplace with Savannah and North and Jacksonville South just was not a realistic financially feasible alternative, and that was another thing that shifted the direction of thinking.
Thanks.
Great. My last item are roofing projects for Greer and Satilla Marsh. We will open proposals on Monday, April 1st, and hopefully it will take us a couple of days. We can get that recommendation out to you so that you have it ahead of our April 9th meeting, because we really would like to get that approved April 9th so that we can get submittals done and contractor get his materials ordered and, just get that thing moving for the summer.
So we'll get this posted and out to you guys once we get all that, should be next week, Florida. Posted if Susan can do that. But we'll make sure you get the information. If you have any questions, you can certainly share and answer those certainly at the regular board meeting, but that'll be our plan to vote on that as well. We just want to get started in time for the summer and all that, so it's kind of pushed up against the schedule.
And that concludes my report. I'll be with the good report. Salmon is here.
It's a good report.
It's a good report.
Doesn't matter.
You can see on this page, the item of value on basically listed here with the overall summary schedule. Let's go to page 2. The report this time, the 5-page summary, is a little bit of a mixed report. We're still in the March, so your March is not closed out. So you'll notice that the expenditures or the payments there are still February's because we don't have final March payments at this point, having the meeting a week early and so forth. So that is basically the same number that you saw before. Let's go to page 3. As you look at this, however, the state Department of Revenue generally will post the receipts a day or so before the end of the month. What you're looking at in that blue section, gray section, depending on which color line you use, the March receipts did show up on the website last night. So the March receipts are $1,745,000 that you'll see there, which is about $95,000 over budget. Don't know if Kevin mentioned it last month, but you know, we were down just a little over about $6,000 over budget on the receipts last month. Traditionally, if you go back to 14 and even 15, and if you look on the detailed report, February and March have traditionally been your two lowest months. Initially starting in 15, they were like $1,300,000, $1,400,000 when we were budgeting $1,500,000, but then the other months made up for it and so forth. So $1,700,000 compared to generally about $1,500,000 or $1,600,000 for February is actually a pretty good number. And Al has mentioned it a couple of times tonight. As you know, as we get that surplus every month, we're putting it into the technology renovation account, which even if you make the change that was discussed regarding the science building, is still over $4.5 million. A few months after we started this program, it was $2 million. We've been able to add to it. At the same time, we pulled various monies out over the last 2 or 3 years to fund other things like the land for Altamont and other things that you have. So that has been a good resource for you. It's actually called technology renovation, miscellaneous projects and so forth. And that's what it was set up for. Right now, even if you pull this 200 and something thousand, he mentioned earlier, you're still going to have $4.5 million in there at this point, based on these receipts. If you look at the 4th page, going to the next one, you can see the overall receipt gap between the bottom line and the top line, $67 million versus $60,300,000. So we have received just a little over $7 million in these 34, 35 months. No, we're a little further than that. We're in 38 or 39 at this point. So we're about $7.5 million ahead on receipts on our budget. And then the final sheet is just a summary of the 3 remaining phase 2 SPLOST 2 projects. Would remind you again, the initial major portion of the science building budget was in here. That's where the fees are being paid for at this point. Construction, everything else is on that sheet that Al had shown you a while ago. And if y'all approve that in a week and a half or so, then we'll revise that accordingly, or based on what we do at your meeting in a week and a half. So that's your summary report. The detailed 20-plus page report is available too, and will be on your website. And also, if the March receipts do come in, if I'm able to get them next week, I will revise these reports so you will have the March figures. Don't know if y'all will even be working next week. I guess you probably aren't. So we might not get them in time to revise this before your actual board meeting Tuesday week. But if I can get them, we'll revise this and update the expenditures there. So that's an overall summary, Dr. Cole. Anything else?
I think you're good, unless I have any questions. Thanks, Steve. Thank you. Good news. All right, I think we're getting down to the final item information, which is about our job fair information. I think it's also a personnel update, so I just wanted to Ms. Bennett.
So Chris, if you could open not the career fair pictures, we'll start over there, we'll save the career fair. I'm glad to have a chance to come tonight. It seems like in the past I've always reported out on personnel information in September when we've gone through our hiring season. So it's really a nice change to be reporting out and kind of updating you as we are getting very deep into the hiring season for this year. So I'm glad we're here tonight. What I want the board to know before we start sharing information is that it has always been our goal, and it will continue to be our goal. We are looking for the best qualified candidates for our teaching positions. And what we're going to talk about tonight are our certified positions, and that's our teachers and administrators, those kind of positions. And I want you to know that when we're out there looking for these qualified applicants. Our goal is to create a pool of applicants for our principals to look at that has the best qualified we can find, as well as we're also always looking to diversify that pool. So as a principal goes in looking at applicants, they're confident that these are qualified, highly qualified folks, but also we're trying to provide some diversity for them. If you have been on the board for just a little bit, you have seen this chart from year to year, because it's a 20-year chart, and behind Dr. Cole's head, and maybe you can see over here, every year when we add a year, we drop off a year because we're looking for a 20-year trend in our hiring of minority certified staff. The only thing I want to say to you, because I hope I get to come back in September and update this for you, those bar graphs represent September data. Well, that 2019 represents last Friday, okay? But it just gives you, this is the current information we have for right here, right now. And there was a suggestion made that we add a trend bar this year. And so this is an Excel document, and you simply ask them to use their formula to calculate what does our trend look like over time. And that's the red line there. And I think while the slope is not very steep, it is certainly showing that as a district, we're moving in the right direction. And so I thought that was a great addition for you all to see we're moving in the right direction. If you have any questions for me, I think I know this inside and out, and I can certainly try to answer questions.
Is that just for the minority?
That is just for minority.
Minority, okay.
It's something we've just tracked historically for many, many years.
You're going to have up and down years, but the trend, you're right, is in a good direction. So we appreciate the hard work.
So the next slide, because I want to, it was so great when Dr. Whitehead was sharing our information from Advanced Ed, and it was pretty much just good thing after good thing after good thing. I have never shared with you all, and I don't know why, our Professional Standards Commission, every year they provide mid-year school personnel information, and they just lift this from our certified staff. So I just couldn't help myself. I had to add green boxes to show you what the PSC does is they look at our information and they compare it to the state. And so the first thing is, what % of your allotted teaching staff, what % are you having to replace year from year? So we're right at about 10%, but if you look at the state average, it's about 17% for other districts. The teacher attrition, that is a huge piece of what we do in HR, not just attracting them, but also working hard to keep them here. You can see we're at about 9.5% that we lose from year to year, but the state is almost at 16%. So again, I just think it's fair to say outperforming the state. We hear a lot about losing special ed teachers and the attrition rate being just, very significant for special ed. This is the Glynn County information. Just in our special ed teaching pool, we lose about 11.1%. I want you to look at the state average of losing. And I would love to take some credit here, but I really believe, and this is from reading, from looking at research, from looking at information out there, and Dr. Cole can speak to this as well. This is about the work that's happening in schools with your leaders, how they work with new staff, how they keep staff at their school. So I think it again kind of goes back to what the visiting team from Advanced Ed saw. There is a very consistent work across our district to support our teachers and to retain them. The last thing I want to show you, because we'll be talking to you in September about our alternate pathways to certification, those folks. And although we are expanding that and really working hard to offer different routes to certification, still teachers that we're hiring, 87% are coming in with clear renewable certificates. They're going through ed prep programs in college, and you can see in the state about 80% are finishing programs that they're hiring. the last thing I wanted to show you, and again, I don't know why I just hadn't really brought this to your attention before. Every October, we're required to provide a school staffing survey to the state. Where are we exactly with vacancies? And what they want to know, and it was a little confusing, so I wanted you to know, we have to report the certificate endorsement that we can't seem to fill. All right, so they want to know, is it high school physics that you're having trouble filling? What are you having trouble filling? And so you can see where we were in October, and please remember, that changes every month, so those numbers are constantly moving, but we have to turn it in each October. You can see where our openings were in October. And then the reporting period in March is just, I wanted you to know what positions from 18-19 have we still been unable to fill. And you can see it kind of moves a little bit because we had 2 high school special ed positions. Well, what happened is in high school, we were able to take paraprofessionals, work with them, then they were ready to move into the teaching positions. So those dropped off, but then, others appeared. And by the way, that one high school teaching position is consumer science. So it's not math, it's not physics, it's not chemistry, it's consumer science. So, but any kind of questions you have for me, and then I asked Ms. Seals to come here because she spearheaded our job fair, our career fair, and I wanted to share a couple of pictures.
So the one high school from October is consumer science, right? So what are the 3 from March? Am I reading that right?
Yes, you are. And you know what, Mr. Woolsey, if I don't have that
It's
here,
probably still
I have
consumer
it on
science.
a work copy.
Right.
I can't think to save me, but I can, if we go back, I can.
That's okay.
I have that written
It's not a
down.
big deal. I'm just curious. So do we still have the consumer science class right now? I mean, how do we, just long-term sub stuff? Okay.
We already have filled it for the coming school year.
Okay, good.
That's on your
Okay, thank you.
information.
And just to segue into the job fair, I mean, if you got a chance, I came a little bit late, but I heard by all accounts it was a really great success. So I appreciate Ms. Seals and the entire HR department, and all of our principals and leaders that came and participated, whether it was special ed and transportation folks, our food service folks. I mean, it was really a great event, so thank you.
Well, March 22nd, we had the great opportunity of having our Glynn County Schools Career Fair. And this year we had a few changes. We decided to hold it at Risley Annex. After speaking to several participants from last year, we felt like it may be a little bit better location, and it was an opportunity for us to see if it was a better location. And it seemed to be. We had an increase in possible employees coming by. We had an increase this year. You'll see several pictures of departments, leaders from schools sitting with various people who came through. We were excited to have them there. You'll note one of the pictures that was an addition for this school year, and that is, you'll see the bank of computers within the Risley Annex. You have several computers on the side. That proved to be very valuable. They stayed full most of the day, and we were able to go ahead and have potential applicants complete their applications in the room, and so they could ask us questions. We were able to use our current software, which is Frontline. It's a new piece that we launched this school year. We were able to use that software to register those people who came in, and also they got immediately through their email a passcode, which walked them right on into the application process. And so we were able to answer any questions they may have, and we just thought that was just really a good piece that we added there. And also too, we also had certified and classified departments there as well. We had representation from elementary, middle, and high school, along with transportation, food service, student services, as well as maintenance, because we were looking for custodial staff as well. So we were able to have all of those departments represented, and many principals came out, and I was very grateful for that. had a lot of publicity online. This year we really pushed out into social media. I was able to record a video online with the help of Miss Tate. Almost over 3,000 views on that, 50 shares on the flyer, and it was a great way to push it. We had some radio publicity as well as it being mentioned on a Jacksonville news channel. So we were grateful for that publicity as well. We're still looking to increase and grow each year. We're looking for 2020 to be even bigger and better. Just trying to find different ways to attract people to come into our county, see our schools, and see the great opportunities we have in our county. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to host this on behalf of the Glynn County School System. Appreciate that.
Do you know how many people showed up?
Approximately 80, which is an increase from last year.
How many potential or applicants did we get?
Don't know the exact number of applicants, but I will say, I talked to several principals in which I'm just leaning on them. They left with at least 5 people. Each principal I talked to said, I've got about 5 people I want to talk to. So we had different principals in the morning than the afternoon, which was great. And we also heard from food service. When I asked Ms. Lewis about, she said, Ms. Sills, if I get 3 people, I'm great. I'm happy. She said, I got a lot more than 3 people today, so I'm excited about that. So lots of people looking for paraprofessional opportunities, and for me as a staffing manager, that's exciting, because if they're interested in coming as a paraprofessional, we can get them excited about teaching, and then we can work with them to get their teaching certification. And so I'm excited about that opportunity as well, getting people inspired to come in and help our children in the classrooms. Then we can work with them to become certified. But the piece I really liked about it is that you can help educate children wherever you are. And that's what I like about the career fairs. We are encouraging people to come in and help us with our children in any way that they can. And that includes food service. That includes being a bus driver as well as a classroom teacher. So we were excited about that.
I heard great reviews. I had several people, but I told them, like, go get a job.
Go get a job.
There's not enough begging me, go get a job.
Woman of few
I heard it was
words.
great.
Thank you again for both all your work with that. That was our last item for information, but just to highlight, a couple of these will be new, but most of these we've heard about under the proposed action items, so we'll go a little bit faster, but if you have any questions about something we've already covered, that's certainly appropriate to ask questions. But we've already heard about the review of the science building renovations. Mr. Boudreau went through all that, and again, those are attached, and that would be something we would take action on Tuesday when we come back from the break. But a new one, the next one is new, and that's a review of computer refresh. I'll let Dr. Poulos handle that one.
So every year we had a rotational basis. We target specific schools that we will refresh their computers. So we go out with a 3-year lease. We extend the use of them in a 4th year, so we get an awful lot out of them. And so the approach that we're taking on this, and you saw this through our advanced ed, that the use of technology in the classroom by students, we want to increase it. We are not a one-to-one system yet, but we'd like to move towards that. Truly, right now, we're close to 2 students to 1 computer. Through this purchase, we'll move even closer to it as we continue to get moved down. I would expect that in the coming years that the cost of the equipment, our basic needs, is actually going down. So it's more cost effective. We're going to ask, and do you have the spreadsheet on there? Can you turn that sideways? The new approach that we have on this is we're looking at the size of a school and trying to bring the ratio down. So generally speaking, if we did a cakewalk and the music started, could a student find a computer in the school? And we're much closer to a 1-to-1 for these particular schools once we're done with this purchase. So we're asking for the board to approve on Tuesday the purchase of these computers at a cost of $1,292,021.70. Andrea budgets this money every year. This is actually less than what we've budgeted and used in the past. So again, I think that we're being more cost effective. We are going to purchase more Chromebooks as well for use in the classroom. So we're moving forward with that. Any questions at all? And these come in the summer. We go out in the summertime. We replace those old ones. We sell the old ones as well. We'll ask for the board to approve the surplusing of those, and we get some money back on them.
Are the Dell Optiplex models desktop models?
Are those the desktop?
Yes, there's a Dell Optiplex mini tower, Dell Optiplex micro form factor, which is a very small computer about the size of a little paperback book. That's what we're kind of migrating to. They have solid state disk drives. They do everything a regular computer does. The mini tower has the advantage of having a DVD drive. That's the only difference. And then Dell Latitude is the laptop, and then the Chrome 3400 with 14-inch screen. It's just a little bit smaller than 14-inch. So that's the computer lineup for this summer.
And again, one of the most important pieces of this is we've gone to all the schools to ask them, what would you do with this equipment? So they're part of the process, and we want to make sure that we still are able to hardwire in for testing, but also to continue to advance. If students use a computer throughout the school year, could we move forward with using the Chromebooks for testing as well? So this is advancing us much closer to that one-to-one initiative. And so Tuesday that we return, we would ask the board for approval of this. Any other questions on the computer refresh?
I have another. So where are the desktops used? Like what is the...
Well, oftentimes they're used in the classroom, so especially at the elementary level, there might be 3 in a classroom, for example, or they have a computer lab. And so we also have teacher desk computers that are part of this purchase.
So is that about 4,000 computers?
That we're asking for?
Yeah.
It's right around 2,000, I believe, something like that. There's a total of, looks like 1,336, or what is it, 1,036 desktops, whether micro form factor or mini tower, 336 laptops, and 1,300 Chromebooks.
And the carts that go along with those for the charging stations and all.
So yeah, it's a well over a total of about 2,000 machines.
Within the system, I think we have, what, 8,000
Over 8,000.
computers. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Poulos. The next area, I don't know, is she here, or who's going to take that since Ms. Preston's not here, but the food service equipment surplus at Glynn.
Rhonda's here.
Oh, Rhonda.
Rhonda's here.
Okay.
Rhonda,
ready for it.
Rhonda, that's you.
They've got a surplus apparently for our food service equipment. Do you have anything to say about that?
There's a lot of equipment left in the old Jackson Learning Center, so a lot of this, again, anything that can be reused, they put in different places, but this is the surplus items that she's asking to be put out on surplus go.
Once you guys, if you approve these surplus, we'll list them on GovDeals. If you're interested in purchasing any of them, I'll let you know. You can go out and bid on them. But, give you the locations and then the items, and this is like the surplus stuff and stuff they have to go out with the Glynn Learning Center, and I think there's
A few
some
other spots.
warehouse and some Marsh. It's just stuff that items that they're not using any longer, or that probably should not be used any longer because it's old. But anyways,
Thank you.
so yeah, if you could do some.
So that would be on, yep, that'll be on for your consideration on that Tuesday as well. All right, the next 2 items, I think we've talked about those. We'll take action following the break on the MOU with the city about the Mansfield Street Gate, and then the MOU for the Wright Square. Mr. Boudreaux spoke about the city linear furniture as well. And again, the review for the new roofing for Greer, that will come next week to you all, and we'll post that as well. The next item is the review of the exemplary board recognition. I guess I can speak. Y'all have taken some assessments. We're trying to get to the exemplary board recognition, which I think is outstanding level to get to. But you do have to have a formal vote that we're applying for the exemplary board recognition, and that will be taking place on Tuesday as well. But I want to point that out to you as well. And the final item we have is a review of the Microsoft enrollment for educational subscription, so that'll let Dr. Poulos.
And again, this is a renewal. This comes up every year, and we purchase the ability to continue to use our Microsoft products that we have. The key factor of this is based on employees, our number of employees, not overall computers. So as we mentioned earlier, we have 8,000 computers. Because we're a school system, we really only have to purchase for the number of employees we have. So the number that we're asking for consideration is coming again out of the technologies general budget, $99,297.50. This gives us access to everything we have with Office 365 and everything that goes, and everything's up in the cloud.
I'm assuming that amount was what was budgeted since we're in the third year of a 3-year contract. So we're not
We budget that, and anything that may be changed based on our budget, Andrea will cover.
Can I ask a food service question? I don't mean to go back to it, but there's a new items, 3 ice dispensers. What are those? Is it like an ice maker machine?
It may very well be an ice machine.
The reason I ask is, Dr. Whitehead, the school nurses need ice machines, and we talked about it a couple of years ago. And it actually has left my mind until I just looked. And if we have 3 new ones and nurses still don't have ice machines at their station to use for the kids that...
I don't think they're ice
They're
machines,
just
but we'll
dispensers. They put ice in them and somehow they distribute ice, but it's not a machine. Dispenser.
I think they pour it in there and
It's just like the cat cabinet.
Would be something we do need to look at. That I
Most
haven't-
of them have
I
now
just
got
forgot.
the little, like,
The little ones?
countertop,
Yeah.
ice makers that we're keeping in the clinics, but I will definitely
Glen
check the rest
Academy
of them to
had
make sure
one,
they have,
yeah.
okay, I'll check.
They're very- I know they had one, but
Thank you.
Any questions on the Microsoft? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Poulos, and that concludes both our items of initial and our proposed action.
that'll bring us to executive session, and I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session for land, legal, and personnel. So moved. By Dr. Yergin. Second. Mr. Edgy, any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous.
back into or open session?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Yergin.
Second.
Huh? So let's second by Ms. Pollitt.
Don't
I'm
be
sorry,
mean to
Ms.
Susan.
Sam's, not Ms. Sam's. Please. All those, any discussion? All those in favor? We'll be at 7:27.
Does that mean that you were showing to Susan? Well, we got our half
Because
time
there is a
now.
longer story behind that.
Right? To get one.
I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Arr.
Oh, goodness.
I
Motion by
got
Ms.
that.
Bobbitt.
Have a great time.
Second by Mr. Medalla. Any discussion? All in favor? Also at 7:27. Thank y'all.
Thank you.